Hello everybody, my name is Jason and I am an ISFP. And as an ISFP, I have an SF mind. Now, what is an SF mind? Well, obviously with the SF, the S stands for sensing, the F stands for feeling. So I have a sensing, feeling mind. The sensing is very much about the physical world, and the feeling is very much about value judgments, okay? Finding things that I find valuable, things that I like, and they are things that I value and like in the physical world. So with an SF mind, I am someone who values things in the physical world. Now, when I look back on my childhood, oh man, how true that was. How true that was that I valued things in the physical world. Whatever it might be, I valued new toys. I'm sure all kids do, but I was enamored by them. I valued seeing things, whatever I could see. I valued experiencing the physical world in every way, shape, or form that I could manage to experience it. And as I grew into my teenage years, that only grew more. I became big into hockey, and one of the things that I valued was I valued the smell of the ice as I would walk into an ice rink. I valued the feel of the softness or the different texture of different hardnesses of ice underneath my skates. I valued the equipment. I played goal, and I remember one year, I don't remember what year it was, but probably my freshman year in high school, sophomore year in high school, I got all new red and white equipment, new Vaughn Legacy pads and a new Vaughn Trapper, new heat and blocker. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. I just loved to look at it. I could have just sat and just stared at my goalie equipment. I probably did at times. And I valued jerseys. I valued certain cars. I loved as a teenager going to the mall and walking into every store and seeing the new things that were on the shelf. I collected toys because these were tangible things in the physical world that I could value, that I could bring home and put on a shelf. I would collect things, not just toys. I collected other things too. I collected hockey cards. I collected football cards. I collected Beckett hockey magazines. I collected Hockey Digest. I bought posters, hockey posters, and sometimes in my life, music posters. And I valued all of these things. And I'm sure lots of teenagers do that, right? For all sorts of different reasons. But for me, it was the shininess of the thing. It was the newness of the thing. It was getting to hold something physically in my hand, something that I had not previously owned, but now I purchased it and I owned it. And then I could set it up on a shelf and I could look at it and I could say, wow, look at that. I own that. That is so cool. And all through my life, I valued things in the physical world. And I'm not saying that that's wrong or that's bad, but I'm just kind of taking you on a little journey of what has happened to my SF mind as I have aged. And sometimes there's good to it, there's maturity to it, and in some ways it's a little bit sad. So I want to talk about this, okay? What does it mean that my SF mind has decayed? Now, I don't mean my mind is decaying. I'm not saying I'm losing mental aptitude or sharpness. What I'm saying is the SF-ness, the thing that causes me to value things in the physical world, has waned a little. It has decayed a little, and I want to talk about that. So I remember after my wife and I were married, and I don't remember if it was maybe my 21st, 22nd birthday, something like that. I was very much into collecting Star Wars toys, and I would get them and I would leave them in the package and I'd put them up on shelves, and, you know, I had my awesome display of Star Wars toys. And then I had my little shrine to my favorite goaltender in the NHL, Patrick Waugh, at the time. And I had, you know, toys of Patrick Waugh and cards of Patrick Waugh and pictures of Patrick Waugh, posters. And I had a little shelf with all that on it. And this was after I was married, you know, so my wife was very patient with me that I could have my little shrines to Star Wars, my little shrine to Patrick Waugh. And It was my birthday. We were over at my mom's house. My grandpa was there. There was never a man on planet Earth that I respected more than my grandpa. I mean, that I personally knew ever. And I was, here I was 21, 22 years old, and I was receiving these toys, these shiny, new, awesome Star Wars toys, things that I could value in the physical world, right? Oh, an X-Wing, and that's more valuable than this, you know, cloud car over here or whatever. And I'm, you know, ranking these things effectively in my mind based on the value. And I needed a cordless drill. And so my mom bought me a cordless drill for my birthday, 21, 22 years old, however old I was. Maybe I was even 23, I'm not sure. My grandpa was sitting at the other end of the table when I'm opening my birthday presents. And he's seeing, and this is a man who fought in World War II, grew up during the Depression, and he's seeing me open these, you know, shiny trinkets and trash, basically. And I open this cordless drill, and he says to me, "Now there's something valuable." And for the first time, probably ever, I began to question the things that I value in the physical world. Now, it deterred me to an extent. I dramatically slowed down my toy collecting. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not saying that if you're out there collecting toys and you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s or whatever, I'm not saying you're bad. I'm not saying you should feel bad. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just telling you my personal journey, okay? So here I am valuing all these things in the physical world, and I get something in the physical world that is useful, right? So like an ST, I was getting all these SF presents, and I got an ST present, right? A drill, an ST present. And my grandpa, and I don't know what type he is, he died in 2005, and I've never really put myself through the exercise of trying to think back on his life and trying to determine in my mind what type he might have been. But he could have been an ST guy, honestly. He might not have been, but he could have been. And so here I get this ST present, and my grandpa says, "There's something valuable." And I stopped largely collecting toys after that, because I was realizing in my mind, to me anyway, I was convicted that I was placing value in the physical world on the wrong things. Now, maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but that's the way I felt. But my valuing of the physical world did not die. I just thought maybe I shouldn't value these toys so much that I'm buying and just leaving in their package and putting on a shelf. In fact, some years later, when Christmas time would roll around, and I have two boys, I have 3 girls, 2 boys, and we couldn't afford to buy presents, I would go in my basement and open up the Rubbermaid containers that had all my Star Wars toys from the 90s. We're not talking 1970s Star Wars toys and 80s that I could have sold for a lot of money. I would pull out some of the 1990s Star Wars toys that I'd gotten when I was in my early 20s or late teens, and I would wrap them and give them to my boys for Christmas because we couldn't afford to buy them Christmas presents. And that memory just kind of hit me. I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, sorry. So as life went on from there through my 20s and 30s, I still very much valued things in the physical world. I still do to this day. But like, I would love to go to the mall still, you know, through my 20s and 30s. And even though I couldn't afford to buy things, and even though there was a part of me that said, you know, this is silly, you valuing comic books, or going to the comic book store in the mall and looking through the comic books, or going to the toy store in the mall and looking at all the cool Star Wars toys or whatever. There was a part of me that's like, you know, that's kind of silly, but I still did it. And I still looked forward to going to the mall. I loved going to the mall, all the new shiny things and all the cool different things. And, you know, love going on a car lot and just looking at all the pretty different color cars, and, you know, the oranges, and oh my gosh, I work right around the corner from a Dodge dealership right now. Like now I work right around the corner from a Dodge dealership, and the other day they had a Jeep Renegade, which we own a Jeep Renegade, but it's gray. My wife, that's a color that my wife likes, and I like it too, it's fine, but they had like this emerald bluish green new color, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I want one of those. That is beautiful. Valuing that in the physical world. But anyway, as I've moved on now into my 40s, I've realized that when I take my kids to the mall, I can go in all the stores and I can see all the little toys and the cool things. And some of them they're themed with things that I love. I love Transformers. There's Transformer themed, little pins you can put on your shirt and shirts and, backpacks and all kinds of cool things. And that's neat. And I grew up, loving G.I. Joe, and you find G.I. Joe things and, find shirts that represent music groups that I like, and, all those things that you can find in the mall, right? Star Wars toys or Lord of the Rings toys or whatever. These are all things that I find enjoyable. But it doesn't capture my attention anymore. It doesn't fascinate me the way that it used to. Things that glitter and glow, they might capture my attention for a moment, but I don't value them like I used to. Now, on the one hand, I like to tell myself it's because I've matured. I mean, I'm sure that lots of people, ISFP or not, can relate to the idea that the things that once enamored them when they were children no longer enamor them. That's probably true largely across the board. But what's so difficult for the SF is that we are wired to value these things. All right. I mean, I'm sure every kid looks at the new toy and goes, wow, that's awesome. And as we grow up, we grow out of that. But for the SF, what makes it so difficult to grow out of that is that's what we're wired to do. We're wired to see the amazing things and value them and go, that is, wow, that's amazing. That thing in the physical world that I can tangibly pick up and hold is so amazing. And I just want to look at it and I want to hold it and I want to, examine every aspect of it and take it all in. Not because it's actually valuable or can do anything of value like a cordless drill, right? Not because it's ST able to be used in this world to accomplish something. Or not because it's, in some way NT or NF, theoretical and cool in some deep thinking way, but for no other reason than it's just SF cool. It's just SF neat to look at, neat to hold, neat to examine. I just like it. It makes me feel good. I like to look at it. I like to touch it, whatever. That's what the SF mind is kind of wired to do. And so as I'm growing older and I'm maturing, I'm finding that I don't get enamored by the physical world like I used to. And as I was about to say, I know that to a degree that's just because of maturity, right? I mean, I remember when we bought, in 2001, my wife and I bought our first brand new vehicle. It was a 2001 Dodge Caravan. It was kind of a orangish maroon. It was so pretty. And loved that van, but it got old. It fell apart. Things broke. It quit working. We got rid of it some years later. And those experiences remind us or teach us that those shiny trinkets of the physical world that enamor us, they grow old and they break and they fade away. And they lose the power to capture our attention the way that they used to. And after so many of those, I got this new exciting thing in the physical world that I value. After so many of getting those things and then finding that excitement fades away. And realizing that you constantly have to go get that new thing in the physical world to keep that excitement up. Over the years, it fades, and I begin to find myself being able to go to the mall and not be enamored much at all. To go walk onto a car lot and not be enamored much at all. And it's maturity, right? It's a good thing. I'm growing up and I'm realizing that the physical world is, it wears out, and it's not all that there is. There's more than just the physical. And that's good to mature and to come to that realization. But at the same time, it's kind of sad because my mind is wired to value things in the physical world. And as I find that fewer and fewer things in the physical world enamor me, as I find that I value things in the physical world less and less, or I find it harder to find the value of things in the physical world, I kind of get sad, wanting to recapture the sense of amazement that the things that this world, that the physical had, you know, that sense of amazement that the physical world once presented to me, it's gone, and I find myself kind of wanting to recapture it from time to time. Now, I personally ascribe to a philosophical belief that we ought not to become too enamored with this world, because it is passing away and we are passing through it. We are like sojourners who are just passing through, and so we shouldn't allow our roots to grow too deep. That's my belief. And I would think that for an NF mind or an NT mind, that might be easier. But I have an SF mind. I'm wired to be enamored with the physical world. So on the one hand, I think, well, this maturity is helping me to do the very philosophical thing that I believe I should do, which is to not love or be enamored with the physical world, and to not allow my roots to grow too deep here in the physical world as I'm just passing through. However, on the other hand, because I'm wired to value the physical world, it's sad in a sense, and it hurts. It's hard to not be able to feel, in some ways, the rush of doing the very thing that I kind of feel like I'm on this earth, in a sense, to do based on my brain wiring. And so I'm trying to logic all that out in my mind, figure all that out in my mind, and ask myself the question, what does that mean? And what am I supposed to do with this as I press on now, you know, into my mid-40s and on beyond that, hopefully, right, into my 50s, 60s, 70s, however long I have the privilege of being on this planet. You know, what do I do with that? How do I reconcile the fact that in some sense I'm losing the love that I once had for the very thing that my brain seems wired to do? Maybe I'll make another video someday when I have the answer to that question, and I'll tell you the wonderful revelation that I had, the great epiphany that came to me. But right now, all I'm doing is just bearing my soul about this issue because it's been on my mind. Please let me know what you think. If you're an ISFP, or if you're an SF in general, let me know what you think of this. I would imagine ESFPs probably could really struggle with this same thing. Maybe ESFJs and ISFJs, but I would think that it would come out a lot different with them, but still could possibly be there. So if you're an SF in general, but especially an ISFP or ESFP, and this is something that you're dealing with, or you've dealt with, or maybe you haven't dealt with it yet, but you're like, oh, am I going to have to deal with this? Let me know your thoughts. If you found this to be thought-provoking, entertaining, useful in any way, please give it a like. Do please subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I think I hit like 329 subscribers today, so that's pretty cool. I've only been doing this for like, what, I don't know, a couple months, 2 months, maybe 3. I don't know, but either way, that's really cool. So if you are a subscriber, thank you so much. If you're not a subscriber, please value this physical YouTube channel of mine by subscribing, okay? Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. I really appreciate you, and you know, value good things in this world and be awesome at all that you do. Bye now.